Ladies and gentlemen, I know I said that my last video was the last video I'm going to do on Canelo versus Golovkin. But I found this article, which is in boxingscene.com, was a couple days ago, where Danny Jacobs said, if Canelo got a draw, then I beat Golovkin. He goes on to express his disgust and confusion at the cards that were announced for the verdict of the judges. Now, you have to understand, Danny Jacobs fought Golovkin in March of this year. So both he and Canelo fought the same fighter. This is what Danny Jacobs had to say about the fight and the results. I thought Golovkin won the fight. I'm not trying to sound like a sourpuss or a guy who complains a lot, but certain things are so adamant that it's kind of hard for you not to mention. If Canelo got a draw, then I beat GGG. This is why I always stress that they always wanted to make this fight and capitalize on this fight. And it shows, because a 118-110 scorecard lets you know their intentions. They're just going to do it again. These guys are not going to have a blemish on their record, so a draw isn't bad. I always thought that it was politics. I think that had something to do with my fight and the decision. I could be wrong. I don't like to be the one of those guys who likes to complain. Obviously, I'm a fighter and my job is to get in there and do what I do. But if you want to know my immediate reaction, what I thought about the fight, I thought it was fixed. I really did. Now, Jacobs is bracing this on the fact that I guess he believes he did a better job against Golovkin than Canelo did, because he feels Golovkin won the fight. Let's see if that's true. How we can test this out is using data. Now, I don't really trust in CompuBox punch stats, but it still is a kind of a guide. Okay? So what I'm going to look at in the CompuBox punch stats here is I'll look at, instead of looking at round by round, I'll just look at the entire final punch stat report here with Golovkin and Jacobs. We'll look at this and we'll compare it to the final total punch stats for Canelo versus Golovkin. Okay? That will tell us something. So the first thing we look at is Canelo versus Golovkin, since Jacobs commented on that. Canelo Alvarez, in terms of total punches, threw 505 punches and landed 169 punches, a connect percentage of 33.5%. Golovkin threw 703 and landed 218, connect percentage of 31%. This means that Canelo was a much more effective puncher, throwing less punches and landing more than Golovkin. That's what that information is saying. It means that Canelo, if he threw five punches, 2 would land. But in the case of Golovkin, he had to throw 7 punches for 2 to land. If he threw 5 punches, only 1 would land. Okay? So, let's look at the total punches for Jacobs versus Golovkin. And when we look, Golovkin, he threw 615 punches, he landed 231 according to these punch stats, a connect percentage of 37.6%. Jacobs threw 541, landed 173, connect percentage of 32.3%. This means that Golovkin, he landed his punches, more punches on Jacobs, and he also had a better connect percentage, because if he threw 6 punches, he would land 2. Whereas if Jacobs threw 5 punches, he would land 2. That's what that's saying. Okay? Yes, it's that. So if he threw 5 punches, well, it's actually 6 punches as well. If he threw 6 punches, he would land 2. And Golovkin, if he threw 6 punches, he would land 2 as well. Or if he threw 3, he would land 1. And Jacobs, if he threw 3, he would land 1. Okay? That sounds almost round about the same, but Golovkin is just more accurate. So if you had, say for instance, if he threw, say, 60 punches, then he would land 23. Whereas if Jacobs threw 60 punches, he would land 18 to 19 punches. All right? So that's how you understand what's going on. So Golovkin was much more accurate. Now, when you look, therefore, you can see that Canelo was more accurate than Golovkin. what also it shows us is that Golovkin landed less on Canelo, with less accuracy on Canelo than Canelo landed on Golovkin. In the case of Jacobs, Golovkin lands with more accuracy on Jacobs than Jacobs lands on Golovkin. In other words, Jacobs' defense against Golovkin is less than Canelo's defense against Golovkin. And in addition, Canelo's offense is more effective against Golovkin than Jacobs' offense against Golovkin, because Canelo needs to throw less punches to land on Golovkin, whereas Jacob has to throw more punches. And then, when it comes to Jacobs facing Golovkin, Golovkin throws less punches to land on Jacobs than he did when he faced Canelo. He missed more, or got blocked more. So Canelo's defense is better, and not only his defense, but his offense is better than Jacobs. That's what these punch stats are saying. So that when Jacobs makes the statement that if Canelo got a draw, I beat Golovkin, he's basically saying, really, the opposite is true. If Canelo got a draw against Golovkin, then it means you didn't beat Golovkin, because Canelo performed better. He had better defense and he had better offense than you did. We can go into breakdowns of jabs if we want. We can go into power punches if we want, and compare them. So let's just go with it. So if you're looking at total jabs here, Golovkin, he landed 105 of 356 punches or jabs, whereas Jacobs landed 31 of 170. Okay? So connect percentage, 29.5 for Golovkin, 18.2. Okay? Canelo against Golovkin, Canelo landed 55 of 233, 23.6%. So more jabs he landed on Golovkin and at a better connect percentage than Jacobs. And then Golovkin landed 108 jabs of 361, 29.9%. So when we look at it, Golovkin landed slightly more jabs on Canelo than he did, at least a slightly higher connect percentage on Canelo than he did on Danny Jacobs. And Danny Jacobs landed less jabs than Canelo. And not only did he land less jabs, but he also had less likelihood of landing his jab against Golovkin than Canelo did. So it's all of these little facts that you have to look at. Now, in terms of power punches, Canelo outlands Golovkin in power punches. And not only that, he has a better connect percentage than Golovkin in landing power punches. Danny Jacobs, on the other hand, has a less connect percentage on Golovkin. He's landed less. He lands more power punches than Golovkin, but he does it with less accuracy. Okay, and you can see that there. Golovkin is more accurate. He's more likely to land his power punch on Danny Jacobs than Danny Jacobs is him. And this is interesting because Canelo, really, power punches are big in a boxing match. And the fact that Canelo landed more of his power punches on Golovkin at a more accurate percentage tells me that, again, he's much better all around in landing power shots than Danny Jacobs is. And he doesn't have to throw as many power shots. So Canelo all around, just looking at the final total punch stats, seems to be a better fighter against Golovkin than Danny Jacobs is. So for Danny Jacobs to think that there's foul play in the judging, and therefore that means he would have won the fight, is actually to do himself injustice. Because if he's saying that Canelo lost to Golovkin, then it means that he lost to Golovkin as well. That's what he's basically saying, not even realizing that, because the data points to that. Now, I want to just say, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe that Daniel Jacobs beat Golovkin, or even got a draw. And if he didn't get knocked down, he would have beaten him. The fact that the data supports that Canelo actually did better than Danny Jacobs against Golovkin tells me that I believe Canelo beat Golovkin. So all of this information only proves more of a fact, in my opinion, that Canelo actually beat Golovkin. Whereas Danny Jacobs, he beat Golovkin maybe by the skin of his teeth, or he got a draw with Golovkin. Definitively, this data tells me that Canelo beat Golovkin. Now, it's interesting that some of the YouTube channels like Wingy, they actually have Canelo beating Golovkin as well. And then, of course, we have a number of trainers who actually believe that Canelo beat Golovkin. Floyd Mayweather Sr., Eddie Mustafa Muhammad believes that Canelo did not lose the fight. Really great trainer and great boxer Mike McCallum believed that the person who throws the body punches wins the fight in the rematch, basically alluding to the fact that Canelo threw a lot of body punches, so he's gonna win. He probably won the fight. And you have a number of other people like Deontay Wilder saying that he thought Canelo won the fight because he had the cleaner, more effective punches. So it's not everybody in the professional arena that actually believe that Golovkin won the fight. And of course, people are coming up with silly excuses like Floyd Mayweather Sr., he wants Floyd's legacy to be great, so he's backing Canelo because of that. And I don't think so. I think, though, that Canelo was fighting like Floyd in there and should have gotten the win. I still personally think so. I know that the judges are the ones who actually determine if a fight is won, but I truly believe that Canelo beat Golovkin, and I gave you the reasons why. Right? You can have it, close, or you could have it wide. I don't care. Canelo beat Golovkin. I still don't believe that Golovkin won that fight. Even though we had swing rounds, Canelo was the guy in control of the swing rounds. And a lot of people don't want to talk about ring generalship. Wingy didn't want to talk about ring generalship, but the truth be told, the ring general throughout that fight was Canelo. How do we know? Because if he wasn't the ring general, believe you me, Golovkin would have got him out there. Golovkin had that firepower to get him out of there. But Canelo wasn't getting hit flush with anything. And he basically, even if he did get hit flush, he would roll the punches and take the sting off of them. So that Canelo really wasn't feeling the full brunt of Golovkin's punches. In the 12th round, Golovkin put together a combination in the middle of the round on Canelo. And that's when we saw how powerful Golovkin can possibly be. It's just that Golovkin didn't know, and he was off balance all the time with Canelo, and he just didn't know how to get past Canelo's defense. And he still doesn't know how to get past Canelo's defense. So if he faces Canelo again, he's going to have that problem, right? Because Golovkin can only do so many different things. He's going to probably come out at a frenetic pace and think that if he can press Canelo and force him to rush him, that somehow he would defeat Canelo. But I think Canelo's got a defense that's really impervious. You can't just get past that defense, and that's the problem that Golovkin is faced with. Like I said, defense always wins fighters' fights, and Canelo's got that defense. So I truly believe that Daniel Jacobs won the fight. I think Daniel Jacobs, though, throwing shade at Canelo and Golden Boy and the Canelo-Golovkin fight, saying it's fixed, I think that's not fair. I think he should maybe make a clarification of what he means, because quite frankly, if you're saying that that's fixed, then you're saying your fight's fixed. Or you're saying that you didn't win. You didn't win the fight against Golovkin. That's what you're basically saying. So I hope he doesn't go down that road. But I hope that Danny Jacobs actually faces Canelo, because he's bigger, he's longer than Golovkin, he's got some skills as a boxer. Let's see him go against Canelo. Just remember though, Danny Jacobs, Canelo ain't the same like Peter Quillen, and he's not Golovkin. So if you get knocked down in that fight, just know Canelo studied you and he got your number. That's all I gotta say about that. On that note, you guys have a great one.